Kingdom Hearts has had a long and exciting speedrun history since its release in 2002, with the release of the HD port in 2013 and the final mix version being released worldwide for the very first time. Many new runners challenged themselves to push the game to its limits. Fast forward to the PS4 version, and the community grew even larger, with over 247 runners for the beginner any percent category. The PC version of the game eventually released in March of 2021, and brought a whole slew of new opportunities and optimizations, and over the past several years, I've been pushing myself to bring the game down to what is possibly the last minute barrier, 1 hour and 47 minutes. With this category being the most competitive, it has also become the most optimized. In fact, it is the single most competitive category in the entire Kingdom Hearts series. This is the Kingdom Hearts Final Mix Beginner Any Percent Speedrun. The run begins with me selecting beginner mode. I'm also playing on the Japanese version of the game since it saves roughly 46 seconds to the English version due to how much faster the text scrolls. For my starting options, I choose the staff and give up the shield. Choosing the staff is important here because it gives me a +1 MP increase. In Kingdom Hearts 1, your magic damage is based on how much max MP you have, while in other Kingdom Hearts games, MP and magic are two separate stats. Dropping the shield decreases my defense, but that's not something I need to worry about. For the first Shadows fight, I align myself to the right of Cinderella's dress here in order to beat the fight in 2 combos, assuming that I get good RNG. RNG is short for random number generation, and there are hidden numbers in the code that are changing every frame to determine how enemies move, what my party members do, the item drops that I can get from enemies, and so on. You'll hear me refer to RNG several times throughout this video. After this fight, I examine the door, open this chest, and try to get a jump backwards. I then do an air combo on this crate and get a potion from it, do another air combo on the barrel that spawns, and jump towards the door right before the next animation starts. Air combos will be my primary comboing tool since they're much faster than ground combos. After examining the door, it's time for me to answer some questions. For this, I select all of the top options in order to put myself into the Dawn EXP route, which allows me to reach level 45 by the end of the speedrun without having to do any heavy level grinding. Once that's done, I set myself up for the next Shadows fight by walking to the right of Aurora's face and doing a couple of ground combos and cleaning the rest of the shadows up with some air hits. I quickly try to get as close to the save point as possible before the game takes control away from me. After touching the save point, I open up the pause menu and use 8 power-ups. This is the main perk of beginner mode, where you always start with 8 power-ups, 8 defense ups, and 4 AP ups. If you are new to the speedrun, you might want to use the defense ups, but I don't use them in order to save some extra time. With all of this extra strength, I'm able to defeat Darkseid in just 4 air combos, after which I use a potion so that it doesn't clog up my inventory later. Next up is Destiny Islands, where I collect a bunch of raft materials for Kairi. This is relatively straightforward. I collect the first log, run up to this barrel and throw it, and then grab the ledge here and make my way to the cloth. I jump onto this tree and onto this platform, collecting the rope, and I jump down and head to the back side of this small island to collect the second log, talking to Kairi right after. After some cutscenes, I skip the last scene and immediately hold left, collecting all of the fish while using the lock-on system to help me get them faster. I run into the cave and collect a mushroom, jump on this palm tree for a seagull egg, and talk to Riku to start the race. A lot of people have trouble with this race, but all you have to do is follow the path that I'm taking, climb up this ladder, and take the zipline down. To keep Sora attached to the zipline, it's important that you keep your left analog stick in a neutral position while he's grabbing it. Then I drop down and jump across the trees to the star, touch the star, and head my way back onto these trees. I drop down below and make my way to the very end. You'll know if you did this race as quickly as possible if it doesn't fade out immediately when you touch the starting platform. For the rest of day 2, I push this boulder and collect a mushroom, and then I run to this specific tree for 2 coconut drops. I get perfect RNG on these coconut drops and make my way to Kairi for an empty bottle, then I collect the last mushroom and fill the bottle with some water, talking to Kairi right after to finish up day 2. Our next boss fight is Darkseid 2, where I do some precise aerial hits in order to parry a projectile to get an earlier kill. I'm then transported to Traverse Town. My goal here is to kill 5 shadows in order to spawn Leon. I do this by going to the second district, doing a swipe attack when a bunch of shadows jump into the center, and then kill the remaining shadow I need in the first district. I enter the accessory shop to talk to Sid and leave to fight Leon. He gives me a quicker pattern by jumping at me, and I'm able to kill him relatively quickly, although I do get an accidental ground finisher. Then I talk to Leon in the green room, and I make my way to guard armor. But first I have to kill a few soldiers on the way there so I can get another strength increase before the boss fight starts. I kill the first soldier that spawns in the alley, lock onto this soldier, do 2 hits to kill him, and switch my lock onto the next soldier so that the finisher takes him out right away. At the start of the Forced Soldiers encounter, I command Donald and Goofy with triangle and do some similar combos with lock-on switching to get the job done. God Armor is really quick in this category, but essentially I do some really specific combos to parry his opening, and then I do some more specific combos in order to prevent the boss from staggering early, but then I stagger him on purpose after his jump attack in order to get rid of the limbs as quickly as possible. After that, I have to wait for a bit since Guard Armor is invincible during his little spinning animation, and then I do a full combo to finish the fight. After a bunch of text, I take Goofy's Ether and put it into Sora's inventory, equip Brave Warrior over the ribbon, equip Dodge Roll, and then change my fire shortcut to Circle for personal preference. I go to the accessory shop and leave the world through the save point, so that I can re-enter the world later through the accessory shop to save time. If you're running the English version of the game, you'd want to go to the alley instead of the accessory shop and do the secret waterway clip by triggering the Trinity tutorial and just holding forward on the left analog stick. Then talk to Leon, cast fire on the door in the 3rd district, talk to Merlin, and then leave the world through the Magician's Study save point. Before going to Wonderland, I open the gummy menu, strip my gummy ship of all the parts, and put on the cockpit, 1 engine, and 1 gun. This is because the gummy armor actually adds weight to your ship, so getting rid of the armor makes the base speed of the ship faster. On beginner, it technically loses a second to equip the gun, but I like to equip it anyway so that I can take a mental break during gummy missions and do some lazy strats to get through them. Fun fact, on the way to Wonderland from Traverse Town, you can actually stay on the top right the entire time and make it all the way to Wonderland without touching your controller at all. Keep in mind this only works on beginner mode because of the damage reduction compared to standard and proud. After talking to the doorknob, pushing the bed, and drinking some bubbles, I go to the Queen's Castle where I'm tasked to find some evidence. In the Lotus Forest, I clear this wave of Heartless with some fire spells, and then I collect this piece of evidence and talk to the card soldier. My evidence gets shuffled with the Queen's, but I'm able to tell which one has the Heartless in it because it's always the first box to touch the ground. This lets me keep Donald and Goofy in my party during the Crank Tower fight. If you're on the English version, you'll want to open Jiminy's journal and close the pause menu right before presenting the card soldier with your evidence, and this makes the text after selecting one of the boxes a lot faster. During the Crank Tower fight, I do some slow air combos on the cranks to save time. This is because every time the crank spins, it has a moment of invincibility during the spin. Once all of the cranks are broken, I quickly destroy the rest of the tower. Next, I have to run through the Tea Party Garden and to the Bazaar Room to light some lamps. Then I jump across to this platform and do a swing, and jump forward to the slash to open it before the enemies spawn in. That's because in this game I can only interact with stuff like this while the command menu is blue. During the Trickmaster fight, I just do some really precise air combos to keep the boss in a stagger loop. This is incredibly hard to pull off and requires a lot of practice. I leave the world and proceed to Deep Jungle, and you can proceed to hit that like and subscribe button if you'd like to see more speedrunning content from me in the future. The first Sabor fight is pretty simple. I just try to get 3 normal hits and a full combo to finish the fight. After getting Tarzan in my party, I drop down to the next area and touch the save point before jumping into the hole. This is so I can save warp later. I open the pause menu during the minigame and quit out of it to get transported to the camp faster and collect a bunch of slides for Jane's projector. I want to make sure that I'm always in a state of movement while collecting each slide, since the game takes control away from you whenever you pick up an item until the pop-up disappears. I do a couple of swag Keyblade clanks while collecting some slides to save some time. After reuniting with Donald and Goofy, I examine the slides, save warp to the save point I touched earlier, and trigger the 2 cutscenes in the vines and the treehouse. I go back to the tent, and now it's time to fight the Power Wilds. My main strategy for each fight is to use Blizzard to hit multiple targets at the same time, so this is where selecting the staff at the beginning of the game comes in clutch. It's important that I'm efficient with my blizzards and conserve MP whenever I can. I save warp again, use 2 blizzards on this group of Power Wilds, and a couple more blizzards on the next group, cleaning the rest of them up with physical hits. I don't know why I used another blizzard though. That was a misplay. I run to the treehouse, entering the fight from the balcony and using Blizzard and some physical hits. I then use an Ether to refill my MP and drop down to the cliffs. I use a few Blizzards here, and due to bad RNG, I had to clean a couple of enemies up with some physical hits. For the last room of monkeys, I kill the first one right in front of me, and then back up to where the loading trigger is to bait the rest of them to group up in front of me, after which I spam some more Blizzards to clean up the fight. I head back into the tent and touch the save point to refill on MP, and now it's time to fight Sabor for real. I dodge roll backwards at the start of the fight and spam as many fires as I can before she starts attacking. Then I wait until she jumps over me so that I can parry her, and I do 2 hits into a full combo to finish the fight. This fight can go in a lot of different ways, but thankfully I got one of the better RNG patterns here. After this fight, I need to climb up to the next area instead of save warping, since there are vines blocking the way from the save point. To speed things up, I climb up this ivy, then I examine the flower behind me and quit out of the minigame immediately, which makes the game teleport me to the next ivy that I need to climb. I hit this black fruit 15 times and drop down to fight Clayton. For the pre-Clayton fight, I just do some aerial hits and Donald's fire cast saves some extra time. At the start of the real fight, I dodge roll backwards and jump onto the sledge and do a couple of well-timed combos to skip Stealth Sneak's animation of becoming visible, saving me 8 seconds. I can then bait Stealth Sneak towards this wall, knock Clayton off, and combo him without finishers to finish the fight extremely quickly. With that fight done, I climb the waterfall cavern and make my way back to Traverse Town. By the way, we skip Olympus Coliseum and Atlantica in this category because they're not required to beat the game and don't have any rewards that save time. I make sure not to kill any enemies during the gummy missions on the way back to Traverse Town to avoid getting a cosmetic item for my gummy ship that could slow down my future menus. I dock into the accessory shop and go to the second district and then the alley. I use 2 blizzards on these yellow operas and then quickly make my way to the right of the Red Trinity in order to despawn the rest of the enemies. After breaking the bars to the secret waterway, I talk to Leon twice and obtain Earthshine, and make my way to the third district using a fire on the door to Merlin's place. After talking to Merlin, I save warp back to the accessory shop and talk to Sid, and sell everything in my inventory except for the elixir that I got for beating Leon and the white fang that I got from Sabor. If you're on the English version, you'll want to dock in the first district at the beginning of the second visit and enter the accessory shop and sell your stuff to Sid just like I did. I save warp back to Merlin's and talk to him to collect Simba from the Fairy Godmother, and on my way to the third district, I equip White Fang over EXP Necklace, equip Jungle King, and give Goofy the EXP Necklace. After skipping the Riku encounter cutscene, I unlock the keyhole here since no enemies spawn directly after the cutscene. I talk to Leon and gang in the small house and go to Sid in the first district to buy a Fire-G and Haste-G before leaving the world. Fire-G is a faster engine that increases the base speed of the ship, and Haste-G allows me to press the square button to do a small boost. I warp to Wonderland since it's closer to the warp hole despite what the map tells you, add the new parts to my gummy ship, and proceed to Agrabah. At the beginning of Agrabah, I make my way over to Jasmine and then head to Aladdin's house to free the carpet, touch the save point, and collect a Megalixir chest, after which I go to the desert to save Aladdin. My strategy here is to use more blizzard spells, trying to get as many enemies at the same time as possible with each blizzard cast. After this, you're supposed to unlock a bunch of keyholes to get access to Aladdin's house, but because I touched the save point earlier, I can save warp from the storage to his house and save a lot of time. I then head down to the bazaar where I kill 2 bandits and 2 green requiems while being very careful to not fall down and spawn more enemies. I unlock the keyhole here and make my way down to the Pod Centipede fight. At the start, I do a bunch of physical combos, and because I'm doing so much damage on beginner mode, Pod Centipede breaks through the barrier immediately and I can combo him while he's walking to finish the fight. And I go to the last room near the desert before the fight ends to save some time. The Tiger Head fight is next, where I get onto his head as quickly as I can, and then I wait for him to start moving before I do any attacks in order to manipulate the fight to be faster. I do exactly 9 hits on his eye before I roll forward and finish both eyes while his head is down. Oh, that's so stupid. I go into the Cave of Wonders and drop to the right while at a specific camera and character angle. This allows me to swing onto this small platform here and jump across into the water for some time save. I make my way to the room with a pillar and cast a fire to trigger the next cutscene, and I head to the Jafar fight. At the start of this fight, I do 2 physical hits and 1 blizzard to force Jafar into his magic bubble. This allows me to keep him here on this platform for much longer, and with some precise air combos, I can beat him in 1 cycle before he disappears. Genie Jafar is next, where I lock onto the boss and cast a lot of blizzards while avoiding getting hit by his arm. Once Yago reaches the platform where I'm standing, I focus on him instead, since the lamp and Genie Jafar share the same health bar. I do a bunch of aerial hits while avoiding the finisher since it has too much end lag. I parry Jafar's boulder, and I finish the fight with more air combos before Yago goes out of reach. After this, we have the carpet escape section, where I die on purpose in order to progress the game faster, since the game doesn't punish you here for dying. This section is actually a lot harder on beginner mode since you have to get hit by more things compared to standard and proud. After some more cutscenes, I leave the world and fly to Monstro. Monstro is our shortest world of the speedrun. At the start of the world, there's a really cool trick called Chamber 3 Skip. I enter Chamber 2 at a very specific angle, and then right after the next room fades in, I do a perfectly timed swing onto this ledge here, inch myself forward, and jump across to grab this ledge, which skips Chamber 3 entirely. After this, I just go to the next closest room to reach our next boss fight, Parasite Cage. This fight is very simple, just combo the boss as quickly as possible to keep it stun locked with each finisher. There is some randomness to this since Donald and Goofy can break Parasite Cage out of the loop, but thankfully that doesn't happen in this run. After I get high jump from this chest, I equip that along with the 3 Wishes Keyblade and go up to the next boss. At the very start here, I'm able to get an instant stagger by doing a finisher right before Parasite Cage's first attack comes out, and then I do a bunch of air combos until the boss dies. For beating this world, I earn the stop spell, which will be incredibly useful later. Monstro sneezes us out, but I need to re-enter since he's directly in my path towards Halloween Town, and I also grab the Water Gleam gem here for later. At the start of Halloween Town, I grab this ledge and collect a hidden power-up chest. I make my way to Dr. Finkelstein's lab, take Jack's ethers and give them to Sora, use the power-up on Sora, equip Ray of Light over White Fang, and equip Hurricane Blast, MP Haste, Scan, and Air Combo Plus onto Sora. After this, I have to go to the graveyard, where I cast 2 blizzards on the shadows, do a big jump forward to spawn the search ghosts faster, and after killing them, I do another big jump backwards and forwards to spawn the last wave immediately and kill them with more blizzards. I still don't know why this spawn manipulation works here, but it's pretty cool that it exists. After bringing the Forget-Me-Not to Dr. Fink, I go back to the graveyard, where I have to clear some more enemies. I use some physical hits on the first White Knight and use Blizzard on the next 2, then jump across these small platforms and open the coffin before the enemies finish spawning in, similar to what I did in Wonderland earlier. I talk to the mayor here to start the minigame, use some fires to set up my orange MP bar to be higher, and use an ether to max out my MP. After completing the minigame, I collect the Jack-in-the-Box from the chest and make my way back to Dr. Fink. I then have to go back to Moonlight Hill, use some blizzards on these enemies here, and climb all the way up Oogie's Manor with some fancy movement to reach Lock, Shock, and Barrel. It also spoils a lot about episode 6. This fight is a lot of blizzard spam, but I have to be careful and make sure that everyone is grouped up together inside of my magic. Unfortunately, due to bad luck, I had to combo barrel a bit at the end of the fight. I hit the lever here to unlock the Oogie fight, equip White Fang over Ray of Light, and drop down to the torture chamber. At the start of the fight, I immediately jump while getting pushed off and cast a blizzard on the gargoyles. This manipulates them to fly down to me, and then I can finish them off with more blizzard spam. The buttons on the floor light up, so then I activate the correct platform and attack Oogie 10 times. Doing this forces him to knock me off, but I'm able to sneak in an extra underhand swing when he does so. I cast some fires for some extra damage, and then I'm somehow able to reflect all 3 dice back to Oogie to trigger the platforms immediately, after which I do some more air combos to finish the fight. Oh, can't believe I got that. Honestly, I don't even know how that all worked out. And for those who don't know, missing Dice Reflect in this fight can lose up to 30 seconds, so I really lucked out. After I beat Oogie, he morphs with the Manor, so I drop down and quickly clear all of the purple orbs with some physical attacks and some clean movement. For beating this world, I earn the gravity spell, which will come in really handy later. On the way to Neverland, there's normally a chance for you to get bad RNG here and get sent to Atlantica, which happens 30% of the time, as a matter of fact. However, because I'm running this game on the PC version, I'm using a community-approved 100% Hookship mod, which makes Captain Hook's pirate ship appear 100% of the time. When I land in Neverland, I try to do a cool little platforming skip by swinging onto a ledge, but unfortunately I get pretty unlucky with the enemy positioning, and the autolock screws me over, losing me some time. In the next room, I fall down this hole, casting a Blizzard on the way down to avoid a ledge grab. I then jump up to the next hole and cast Blizzard to activate the loading trigger faster. Jumping up the next hole, I activate the Green Trinity, customize the Stop spell, and proceed to fight Anti-Sora. With some very specific and extremely tight air combos, I'm able to loop Anti-Sora with Stop spells until he dies. In this fight, we want Donald and Goofy to be trapped on the other side of the room, because if they hit Anti-Sora at all, he can break out of my combos. That's okay. After getting a decent fight, I go for a fast fade out at the end of the fight by dodge rolling at the door at the right time. I then activate the latch here and cast a stop spell to avoid grabbing the ledge, open the pause menu and equip Ray of Light, Raven's Claw, and Pumpkinhead on Sora, MP Haste, MP Rage, and Second Wind on Donald, Cheer and Tornado on Goofy, and I unequip the top 3 abilities from Peter Pan so that he doesn't waste any of his ethers on himself. Peter Pan also comes with a Cheer ability which, coupled with Goofy's, will allow me to clear all of the upcoming Heartless with Simba, since it'll give Simba a longer charge. I also customize Goofy's support actions to Constantly to maximize his MP gift ability later in the run, and I customize Peter Pan's MP items to Frequently so that he's more likely to give me an ether when I'm low on MP. I touch the save point to refill on MP and make my way to the top of the ship. Here I swap in Peter Pan in place of Donald, summon Simba, and clear all of the waves, first with a 3-tick charge and then 2 more full charges, and I finish off the battleship with some aerial hits. For the Captain Hook fight, I jump up to him and cast a stop spell and do a full combo. I then loop him with the stop spell and 5 very precise hits in between each cast, a total of 6 times each. Then let him break out while I continue to combo him so that he dies faster. As you can see, I'm currently on really good pace. Surely nothing will go wrong later. With Hook done, I hit the Big Ben clock a few times, collect the Flare G chest, equip Glide, Guard, and Ars Arcanum onto Sora, equip the Fairy Harp Keyblade, and leave the world. Before heading back to Traverse Town, I open up the Gummy menu and replace Fire G with Flare G. This is because the base speed of the Gummy ship is determined only by whatever the strongest engine is, so having multiple engines equipped doesn't do anything, and I needed to free up some slots anyway. In Traverse Town, I dock in the Magician's Study to collect Dumbo from the Fairy Godmother, since I got the Water Gleam gem in Monstro earlier. Dumbo will do something really cool for us later, but for now I need to go fight Opposite Armor. I save warp to the accessory shop and then go to the second district. I do some specific movement here to get to the top of the Gizmo shop faster, and before landing I cast a fire spell to set up my orange MP bar for the upcoming fights so that I don't have to use an ether. I position myself by the green Requiem and use Ars Arcanum to clean up most of the enemies. Unfortunately, a couple of them were out of reach, but I got rid of them quickly enough. After picking up a little bit of MP, I activate the Red Trinity and drop down to the world's keyhole. For this fake guard armor fight, I do a full combo on its left hand and he immediately drops down. At this point, disaster struck. At the beginning of the fight, I guarded his opening attack as normal and did an Ars Arcanum to get rid of the hand easy peasy. After this, Opposite Armor can do anything he wants, and he chose to do the worst thing possible, which is to break apart. Because of this, I have to wait for him to put himself together before I'm able to destroy his 2 feet and deal damage to his main body. Because of this terrible RNG, I ended up losing 17 seconds to my best segment. Ouch. PB was still doable though, so I continued the run. I spoke to Sid and left the world, warped to Neverland, and flew to Hollow Bastion. We're in the endgame now. At the beginning of Hollow Bastion, we get stuck with Beast as our only party member, but thankfully he's pretty good. I head down to the waterway and get through the puzzle. There's a Defender Heartless here, but I clear him out easily with 1 gravity spell and 1 Beast lunge. After unlocking the castle gates, it's time to fight Riku. Unfortunately, even more disaster struck. My goal here was to trap Riku in a corner and use Ars Arcanum and air combos while Goofy is supposed to trap him with his shield and by using Tornado. Because I got really unlucky with my party members and Riku's positioning, I lost 14 seconds to my best segment here. Since this run, I found a much more consistent opening where you cast fire on Riku at the start of the fight to force him to attack faster and get staggered by R's faster. It's pretty cool. Next I go to the library and do the puzzle with the 4 emblem pieces. I then go through the lift stop and back to the castle gates, where I cast 1 stop, 1 gravity, and 2 fires on the wyvern right in front of me. And then I glide all the way to this chest for a haste 2G and to despawn the other wyvern. I glide back to this switch over here and then activate the next switch to the giant elevator, or whatever you want to call it. 3 wizards spawn here, so I command my party members to take care of the first one, and I take care of the next 2 with some air combos. Unfortunately, one of my hits misses the last wizard and he uses his lightning attack, but Goofy comes in clutch and uses Tornado, which bypasses the wizard's super armor. I make sure to preset Dumbo in the command menu here, because at the high tower I summon Dumbo in order to gain some height and dismiss him at the peak of his flight in order to grab the sledge and skip having to fight some enemies and do some puzzles. Next up is Maleficent. For this fight I immediately jump and glide onto her platform and I do 1 hit into an Ars Arcanum. This makes her platform stop moving for some reason, and I do some bashes but avoid doing any finishers since they can stagger Maleficent and make her teleport away. After my first Rs, I do a bunch of air hits, and when the time is right, I use another Ars Arcanum to finish her off. I immediately go into the Dragon Maleficent fight, where I do some really precise air combos and stop spells to finish the fight quickly. Jesus. Riku Ansem is probably the hardest fight for newcomers of the speedrun. I start off the fight by doing 2 hits to stagger him and make him spin, and then I use an Rs without any bashes to stagger him again. I back off when he spins again and use another Rs, this time with some bashes. At this point he goes into a second phase, and my goal here is to loop him with precise air combos to skip his desperation move, or DM for short. I do my combos quickly enough so that my second hit of every combo starts the stagger after he spins, which he does every time he's staggered 4 times. In a risky finish, I decided to use another Rs to bring him down to 0 HP faster, but there was a random chance for him to break out during the Rs and use his DM. After this fight, Sora turns into a shadow and I shimmy my way down. I go through the lift stop here and go into the entrance hall where Donald, Goofy, and Kairi are waiting for me. I then get transported to Traverse Town where I talk to Sid and collect a warp block, talk to Sid again, and then leave the world. I open up the gummy menu here and put on the haste 2G and fly to the bottom warp hole to Hollow Bastion. Halfway through the gummy mission, I'm able to quit out and then warp to Hollow Bastion to save a lot of time. At the beginning of HB2, I put Beast into my party in place of Donald. I open up the menu to customize Gravity onto Triangle, equip Leaf Bracer on Sora, unequip Beast's Ferocious Lunge and equip Critical Plus, equip Goofy's Second Chance, MP Rage and MP Gift, and unequip Tornado, equip Donald's Leaf Bracer and Cheer, and equip Oathkeeper on Sora. This is a really big menu, but it's definitely my favorite to memorize. Now I have to make a really tight platforming cycle. I quickly make my way up these platforms and grab a Megalixir chest and quickly make it to the rising platform to make it to the very top. In the very next room, I dodge roll forward 2 times and quickly move forward and back to only spawn 1 wizard, then I hop onto this platform and summon Dumbo to skip some backtracking and grab the sledge so that I can go to the switch. On the big elevator, there are way more enemies that spawn this time around. I position Beast onto a specific triangle on the floor, and I position myself between Beast and the center of the elevator. Once the enemies spawn, I jump and cast Gravity on the wizard, and Beast jumps forward and does a roar to take out all of the remaining enemies. I do Dumbo skip once again, touch the save point to refill on MP, and proceed to the Behemoth fight. At the start of the fight, I dodge roll to the right and command my party members to attack the boss while jumping onto its back. I do a couple of hits into an Rs which stuns Behemoth. While his head is coming down, I start another Rs and then do some physical hits before he regains consciousness. I dodge the lightning attack with a precise roll and jump onto his back again, doing another Rs right when he jumps forward to deal a lot of damage and to get iframes so that I don't get hit. Unfortunately, I had to use an ether on myself because Beast and Goofy weren't wanting to do their jobs correctly, and I use another Rs. At this point, I get knocked off of Behemoth's back and I had to climb back up, and by the time I killed the boss, I had lost 12 seconds to my best segment here. That's some unfortunate bad luck, but we still had 1 world left. After talking to the princesses, I equip Omega Arts over Ray of Light and leave for End of the World. This world is actually the most RNG heavy world in the entire run, so I need to get insanely lucky here if I want to beat my PB. The first area of this world's final dimension has a few forced fights that I need to get through. The first fight is against these 4 invisibles, and my strategy here is to cast gravity on each of them and hope they all bunch up together so that I can use R's to clean them all up. The next fight is against 3 Angel Stars, which I again use some gravity spells on and do some air combos to clean them up. With those 2 fights out of the way, I pick up this chest for a cottage, and then I use the cottage from the stock immediately and put 1 Mega Elixir into Sora's inventory for later. At the end of the final dimension is our next boss, another Behemoth. I run to the right here and command my party members towards me so that Donald doesn't stun Behemoth early with gravity. Once Behemoth's head starts to come back up, I spam a bunch of gravities until I run out of MP, and Goofy tosses me an ether while I climb up onto Behemoth's leg. Standing on this leg prevents you from getting hit by the initial orb blast for some reason, and then I climb up and dodge roll forward, using Ars Arcanum on the horn before the projectiles hit me. I use all of the bashes except for the finisher, do 1 normal hit, and finish the fight with another Ars Arcanum. If you're wondering why I didn't use gravity on the first Behemoth fight, that's because the one in Hollow Bastion is resistant to magic, while the one in End of the World is not. I'm then transported to the giant crevice, and I just dodge roll forward and drop all the way down, touching the save point to refill on MP before I jump into the hole. Here I only need to enter the portals that are glowing blue, since those are the worlds that I didn't seal the keyhole for. The first world is Olympus Coliseum, where I summon Simba immediately, do a 2-tick charge to stun the enemies, and then 3 full charges to kill every single wave in 1 roar. After the screen flashes, I'm able to leave. Before entering the Atlantica portal, I equip Ray of Light over Raven's Claw so that my MP is stronger. For the first wave of sheltering zones, I use 5 fires on each of them. When the next wave spawns, I cast a gravity on each of the aqua tanks and then quickly clean everything up with some fire spells. I make sure not to leave the area until the screen flashes, because if I leave before it flashes, I have to redo the entire fight. I have to enter the 100 Acre Wood portal next, where I collect a Mega Elixir and touch the save point. The last portal is in Hollow Bastion, where I lock onto the invisible right in front of me and spam a bunch of gravities, hoping that all of them get caught in the gravity. One of them jumps behind me, so I stagger him once and cast a gravity, and then use an Ars Arcanum to clean up the rest of the enemies. One of them survives, so I stagger him and do a gravity and then a full combo to finish him off. The door opens, so I collect the elixir chest and examine the pod. 2 more enemies spawn, so I use a gravity on the first one when the dark ring closes, do a stagger and gravity on the second one, another stagger and gravity, then lock back onto the first one for another gravity, and finish the one closest to me with some physical hits before getting attacked by the other one. I leave the room to fight Chernobog next. This fight is pretty simple on paper, but definitely not easy in practice. The goal here is to do as many air hits as possible to skip various time-wasting attacks that Chernobog can do at certain HP gates. You can see here that I refrain from doing any finishers because they have a lot of end lag and make it take longer to start the next combo. I also need to show a bit of restraint by not doing attacks that I know will miss, but that's something you just have to learn through experience. After this fight is done, I equip Super Glide, and now it's time for the Linked Worlds Heartless. The first fight is yet another behemoth. After entering the room, I immediately lock on and Super Glide to the right so I don't get hit. I use 5 gravities here, then do a full combo when the last gravity hits. I do 2 more attacks before he moves his head down, and when his head comes back up I do another Ars Arcanum, avoiding the last 2 bashes so that I don't fall off. I back up for safety and then use another Ars when his head comes back up, and as soon as he dies, I land on the green floor and use a Mega Elixir on everyone to refill on MP, making my way to these 2 blue rocks right after. For the wave of Dark Balls, I wait until the one right in front of me spawns, and I unleash 2 fires on each Dark Ball, pressing L2 to switch targets after each kill. A couple of them use their vanish attacks, so I dodge roll away and use some more fires. Right after they die, I go straight for the Heartless Emblem door and command Donald and Goofy to follow me. When the first invisible lunges at me, I use a stop spell in the air and use another stop spell when the next set of invisibles lunge at me. I spam a bunch of gravities while switching my lock on, and as soon as all of the invisibles die, I summon Simba immediately. This stop strat is actually the safe strat and loses 6 to 8 seconds to the fastest strat, which is to bait the invisibles towards Donald and Goofy at the emblem door and use only gravities and air hits to clear the wave. I figured for this run I'd play it safe since I didn't want to risk the run dying on this fight. After Simba is summoned, I just do a bunch of full charges to clear the remaining waves. And then I attack the emblem door a couple times to make the next scene load in faster. Yes, this is an actual thing that works, you'll just have to believe me on this. In Final Rest, I pick up another Mega Elixir, touch the save point, equip Raven's Claw over Ray of Light, give Goofy Ray of Light, and equip a second Air Combo Plus and an MP Rage onto Sora before examining the door. The next boss is Ansem 1, where my goal is to trap him in this particular corner with precise air combos and Ars Arcanum. This fight is a very common run killer for me, since Ansem can randomly choose to get out of the corner whenever he wants to, even though you're doing everything correctly. Oh my god. After a slightly subpar fight, I open the menu one more time to equip Goofy's Tornado and put 2 Mega Elixirs and 3 Elixirs into Sora's inventory. Darkside 3 is the only 100% consistent split in this game, where I do a bunch of precise air combos and lock-on switches to defeat him right before his arms go out of reach. Ansem 2 is my personal favorite fight in the game. My goal here is to react to whatever he does and punish him accordingly. I can afford to use one Ars Arcanum before his DM phase, and right before his DM phase HP gate, I do 3 staggers into a perfectly timed Ars Arcanum to skip his DM. I have to repeat the DM skip one more time or I lose 20 seconds for each DM that he does. With the Great Ansem 2 fight, all that was left was the World of Chaos. The first fight here is Ansem 3, where I do a lot of precise air combos and parries in order to skip a couple of long laser attacks. I use Arrow a couple of times to half the damage that I take, and I also make sure to utilize Leaf Bracer here, which is an ability that gives me iframes while I'm casting the Cure spell. Every single combo that I do here is meticulously timed with incredible precision, something I've only been able to pull off thanks to doing a ridiculous amount of practice. After defeating Ansem again, I land on this platform down here and do a specifically timed dodge roll during the boss transition to skip the next cutscene automatically. Next I have to fight a bunch of shadows where I use a couple of Ars Arcanums to clear all of the enemies. Unfortunately though, it doesn't pan out exactly how I wanted it to. Oh, this is horrible. I use a gravity and 2 aerial hits to kill the core, which I'll be doing for every core going forward, and I pop an elixir to refill on MP. The next fight is Artillery. I glide to the back of this cannon here and use an Ars Arcanum right before the game tries to blow me off. Then I move to one of the side groups of smaller cannons and use another Ars to kill all 3. I combo the second big cannon to destroy it, and use one more Ars on the last 3 small cannons. I use an elixir immediately after and fly up to the portal. For the Dark Ball's core, I inch forward, lock on, and use a grounded gravity, and then walk up and do an Ars Arcanum to clean up as many Dark Balls as I can. I then use a bunch of fires while target switching to kill the rest of the Dark Balls and get insanely lucky here. I also make sure to pick up any Mega Ethers that I see for the next fight, and use a Mega Elixir on myself and Goofy. At the beginning of the face fight, I use an arrow on Goofy after flying past the first light flash. After doing a couple of combos on the face, I use an arrow on myself and then move from the middle into the side back and forth while trying to avoid getting hit as much as possible. Because of how much I've practiced, I've pretty much memorized all of the timings, but it is definitely not as easy as it looks. I heal Goofy after the fight is done, and then use a Mega Ether so that he gets more MP out of it. For the Indivisibles core, I back up and use some gravities in hopes that everyone gets clumped together, which thankfully they do, and then I use an Ars Arcanum to clean everything up. The end is in sight. Oh my God. Can I get a 147? I quickly make my way to the main core and use a couple gravities and air combos to kill it, using a Mega Elixir to fill up the party's MP right before the screen flashes white so that Goofy doesn't waste MP with Tornado. For the final boss, I use an arrow on myself immediately, command Donald and Goofy towards Ansem, and fly to the right to avoid some lasers. Then it's time for me to do some clean air combos to finish the fight. With Ansem defeated once and for all, that is a new world record at a 148.03. I actually did proceed to go for a 147 after this and grinded the game for 3 more months, getting unlucky every single time. After hours and hours of monotonous grinding, I had to stop for the sake of my mental health. This game is absolutely ruthless with RNG, but I believe that a 147 will definitely happen in the future. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember to subscribe, and a huge shoutouts to our Gold Crown patrons Shiki Kairi and Radical FPR, as well as our one and only Royal Crown patron Astax for supporting my YouTube endeavors. All of my patrons get 1 day early access to all of my uploads, as well as some sneak peeks and updates to what is going on. And if you would like to support me on Patreon as well, the link is on screen and in the description. I hope you all have a wonderful day.